Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts. On today's broadcast, we are tracking some immediate itinerary disruptions in the Middle East. We'll outline some seasonal programming coming up for the fall of 2026. And we're also going to analyze some long-term fleet deployments and new build timelines stretching all the way into 2029.
Right. There is a lot of ground to cover today.
Yeah, there is. And we are starting today with an immediate operational shift coming from Norwegian Cruise Line.
That's right. So Norwegian Cruise Line has just issued a formal itinerary revision for the final scheduled voyage of the Norwegian Sky.
And this was supposed to be a pretty long repositioning cruise, right?
Yeah, the routing was originally published as a 21-day sailing.
Yeah.
It was going from Piraeus, Greece, which is, the primary port facility for Athens, all the way to Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. But the revised schedule shortens that itinerary to an 18-day cruise.
Okay, so a 3-day reduction.
Exactly. And it will now terminate in Muscat, Oman on September 27, 2026.
So that routing adjustment explicitly removes the scheduled port calls in Dubai and Doha, Qatar.
Right. And Norwegian's communication to both booked guests and travel partners indicated that they believe, that a proactive approach is necessary here, just given the evolving conditions in the Middle East.
Which makes sense. The primary objective of this rerouting is to keep the vessel entirely out of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz.
Precisely. But executing an itinerary change of this magnitude, it involves a really complex logistical framework.
Oh, absolutely.
Terminating the voyage in Muscat, Oman, rather than Dubai, requires a complete realignment of their disembarkation protocol.
Because it's not just about pulling the ship into a different dock.
No, not at all. Rerouting involves securing immediate berthing clearance from the port authorities in Muscat. You have to mobilize local ground handling agents to process disembarking passengers through Omani customs and immigration, and, coordinate all that onward travel logistics.
And to really contextualize the scale of this logistical shift for you, we need to look at the physical operating parameters of the vessel itself.
Yeah, it's a massive operation.
Right. The Norwegian Sky is a ship of 77,104 gross tons. It measures 848 feet in length. Its operating capacity includes 2,004 guests and 899 crew members.
It's basically a small city.
Exactly. We are analyzing a situation where the disembarkation procedures and aviation logistics for nearly 3,000 individuals have been shifted to a totally different country 3 days earlier than originally scheduled.
Which brings up the financial logistics implemented to manage this adjustment. They have to compensate for those 3 lost operational days.
Right. How is Norwegian handling the compensation for booked guests?
So, booked guests will receive a 15% prorated refund on their initial cruise fare. And that directly corresponds to the reduction from a 21-day itinerary down to an 18-day itinerary.
Yeah, it makes the math pretty straightforward.
It does. And in addition to that refund, Norwegian is issuing a 15% future cruise credit, which remains valid through December 31st, 2027.
But passengers don't have to take the revised sailing if they don't want to, correct?
That's right. They retain the option to cancel their booking entirely for a full refund. Furthermore, the operator is adjusting or refunding any flights, transfer services, and prepaid shore excursions as long as they were booked directly through the cruise line's internal systems.
Right. If you booked independent airfare, you're on your own to sort that out.
Exactly.
Now, this disruption bleeds directly into the impending handover of the vessel because this September 27 conclusion in Muscat marks the end of the ship's tenure with the Norwegian Cruise Line fleet.
Yeah, the end of an era for that ship.
Following this final voyage, the ship transfers to the India-based operator Cordelia Cruises in October 2026, where it will be renamed the Cordelia Sky.
And that handover process is governed by a phased financial and operational structure. The agreement for this transfer was actually finalized in early 2025.
Right.
It stipulates that the vessel will initially operate with Cordelia Cruises under a charter agreement before the actual sale is legally completed.
And during that transition period, I understand the vessel will undergo some specific renovations.
Yeah, tailored specifically to the requirements of the Indian domestic cruise market. Though I should note the exact specifications of that refit have not been disclosed by the operator yet.
We do, however, have the confirmed deployment schedule for the vessel following its transfer.
We do.
The Cordelia Sky will execute an inaugural season of short cruises operating out of Mumbai and Goa. And then, following that domestic introduction, the vessel transitions to international operations.
Right, moving further afield.
From late June through late August 2027, the ship is going to operate 8 7-night sailings between Chennai and Singapore.
And these specific routes are designed as one-week open-jaw cruises, so meaning the embarkation and disembarkation occur in entirely different ports.
Right, you get on in Chennai and get off in Singapore or vice versa.
Exactly. And the itineraries feature calls in Langkawi and Port Klang in Malaysia. They also include an overnight stay in Phuket, Thailand.
Which is a significant detail.
It is, because allocating an overnight call extends the hours passengers have to remain in the destination. It fundamentally alters the operational schedule compared to a standard daytime port call where you just have a few hours.
Plus, the routing also integrates 2 full sea days traversing the Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal.
Yeah, which is a lot of time on board.
Following the conclusion of that Southeast Asia summer season, the vessel returns to Mumbai. The late 2027 itineraries will feature 2 to 5 night cruises operating along the western coast of India.
And those routes include calls at the Lakshadweep archipelago, specifically Agadi Island, alongside calls at Momogo and Cochin.
This represents a substantial capacity increase for Cordelia Cruises.
Yeah.
I mean, they're an operator that currently manages only a single vessel, the Cordelia Empress.
Yeah, doubling their fleet essentially overnight. But Cordelia's fleet expansion is scheduled to continue beyond just this acquisition.
Oh, right. They have another ship coming.
They do. They have also secured the acquisition of the Norwegian Sun, which is a sister ship to the Sky. It was built in the same year, 2001.
Interesting.
And that vessel will integrate into the Cordelia fleet in late 2027, operating under the name Cordelia Sun.
Well, let's transition now from the international handover of the Norwegian Sky to some seasonal programming being rolled out domestically during that exact same fall 2026 window.
Yeah, quite a different scale of operations here.
Very different. Margaritaville at Sea has announced the return of its Sail the Haunted Seas Halloween program.
Right, and this seasonal programming is scheduled to run from September 15 through November 1st, 2026.
And it's fleet-wide, right?
It is fleet-wide, encompassing both of the operator's current active vessels. So this includes the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise, operating out of the Port of Palm Beach, and the Islander, operating out of Port Tampa Bay.
Now, looking at the 2026 iteration, it includes several new programming elements.
Yeah, they're stepping it up.
The line is introducing an interactive ghostly game show, a themed Halloween bar crawl, and specialized guest entertainers scheduled for select departures.
And those additions join returning events from previous seasons. So you've got the Spooktacular murder mystery game show, an event they call White Hot Neon Nightmares, the Monster Bash Family Disco, and a trick-or-treat trail.
So the operational execution of this program involves full venue takeovers across both ships.
Definitely. It requires the procurement and distribution of seasonal food and beverage offerings, as well as the integration of costumed personnel into the daily entertainment schedule. It represents a comprehensive thematic overlay of the standard daily operations aboard the vessels.
Now, analyzing this from a business operations angle requires looking at the timing of this highly specific fleet-wide seasonal overlay.
Oh, the timing is everything here.
It is important to note that the official announcement did not disclose whether there will be an added operational charge for passengers participating in these specific events.
Right, that part is still unclear.
But regardless of direct ticket revenue for the events themselves, investing in this programming serves to build brand momentum just ahead of a major corporate milestone.
Because Margaritaville at Sea is preparing for expansion with their third vessel.
Exactly. The Beachcomber, which is the former Costa Fortuna.
Right, and the strategic purpose of this programming really becomes clear when you evaluate the maritime calendar.
Break that down for us.
Well, the period from mid-September through early November corresponds directly with the Caribbean and Bahamian shoulder season.
Right.
This window runs concurrent with active hurricane monitoring in the Atlantic Basin, and it aligns with standard academic calendars. Kids are back in school.
Both of which are factors that traditionally result in lower baseline booking volumes across the industry.
Exactly. So implementing this highly specific programming functions to stimulate booking volume during a traditionally softer revenue period.
By introducing a limited-time operational overlay, the operator establishes a distinct marketing hook for returning passengers.
Yeah, it gives people a reason to sail when they normally wouldn't.
Securing consistent booking momentum and maximizing onboard revenue across the Paradise and the Islander during this shoulder season is a necessary operational step before absorbing the capital expenditure required to refit and launch a third large-scale vessel like the Beachcomber.
It's all about managing current capacity while preparing for large-scale expansion, which actually brings us to our final segment today.
Right. While Margaritaville manages a one-ship expansion, Viking is currently executing a multi-year capacity and deployment expansion on a massive global scale.
Yeah, Viking has released their ocean deployment schedule spanning from May 2028 all the way through September 2029.
And the logistical scope of this deployment release is vast.
It's huge.
The schedule encompasses 80 distinct voyages. These itineraries are scheduled to call at 301 ports across 84 countries, operating across 6 continents.
And their overarching deployment strategy continues to prioritize regional coverage. They're maintaining a strong emphasis on pairing new destinations with culturally and historically significant ports.
Specifically focusing on proximity to UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
Right. So reviewing the new itineraries added to this schedule, Viking is expanding its operational footprint in Alaska.
What are they adding there?
They have introduced a 15-day Alaskan Fjords and the Inside Passage route. This itinerary operates one way between Vancouver, British Columbia, and Whittier, Alaska, utilizing 2 vessels, the Viking Orion and the Viking Venus.
The operational highlight of this specific Alaska routing is the inclusion of new calls to Klawock and Yakutat Bay.
Yeah, those are fairly unique ports for a cruise this size.
They are integrated into a comprehensive schedule that also includes Ketchikan, Wrangell, Haines, Juneau, Icy Strait Point, Valdez, Homer, Seward, and Kodiak.
Which is a very dense Alaskan itinerary.
And incorporating Klawock and Yakutat Bay requires specific navigational and berthing parameters.
Right, because smaller destinations often just do not possess the pier infrastructure or the tendering capacity to support the draft or the passenger volume of, say, a mass market megaship.
Exactly. So by utilizing their specific class of vessels, Viking can secure berthing in these locations, thereby differentiating their regional product offering.
Moving over to the Mediterranean region, Viking has scheduled a new 16-day Mediterranean, Malta, and North Africa itinerary.
And the routing there includes port calls in Morocco, Italy, and the French Riviera.
It does. And the schedule also specifically allocates an overnight stay in Valletta, Malta, which, similar to the Cordelia routing we discussed earlier, scheduling an overnight stay alters the passenger flow and allows for extended evening operations in the destination port.
Now, Viking is also increasing its capacity in the Asian market.
Yes. Based on early booking demand, they have added summer departures in both 2028 and 2029 for their Japan Discovery itinerary.
And that is a 15-day cruise operating round trip from Tokyo, calling at 9 different destinations throughout the voyage.
Right. And these specific sailings will be operated by the Viking Neptune. But the real story here is how the execution of this 2028 to 2029 global schedule is directly tied to the integration of new tonnage from the Fincantieri shipyard pipeline.
The deployment timeline aligns directly with new capacity entering the market.
Exactly. This includes the Viking Libra, the Viking Astria, and the Viking Lyra, which are scheduled to enter service between 2026 and 2028.
And following those deliveries, the Viking Leda and the Viking Vega are expected to join the active fleet during the 2028-2029 operational window.
Right.
So let's look at the intersection of this sprawling global deployment and Viking's new build pipeline, because it involves a significant shift in marine engineering and fuel logistics.
A massive shift, yeah.
The Viking Astria and the Viking Lyra, arriving in 2027 and 2028 respectively, are slated to be the cruise industry's first zero-emission hydrogen-powered ships.
Which sounds great on paper, but operating these vessels across a network of 301 ports requires a highly specific fuel logistics solution.
Because extensive hydrogen refueling infrastructure simply does not currently exist at a majority of global maritime facilities. How does that support this specific 2028-2029 schedule?
Well, this logistical challenge is managed through the implementation of containerized fuel technology.
Okay, break down how that works mechanically.
To understand it, we must look at the differences in fuel storage. Historically, transitioning a vessel to run on liquid hydrogen would require the destination port to construct specialized, permanent, cryogenic holding tanks and high-pressure transfer valves directly on the pier just to refuel the ship's internal tanks.
Which would take years of permitting and millions in construction for every single port on that 301 port roster.
Exactly. But by utilizing containerized fuel technology, Viking eliminates the requirement for built-in port infrastructure.
So the hydrogen fuel is basically stored in standardized modular containers.
Right. The vessels are engineered with specialized loading systems that are designed to accept these pre-filled containers and integrate them directly into the ship's power generation systems.
This engineering approach effectively bypasses the need for immediate global port infrastructure upgrades.
It does. Once the hydrogen fuel in a given container is expended, standard maritime cargo cranes can just offload the empty unit at the port, and a fresh, pre-filled container can be loaded onto the vessel.
Wow. And the logistics of moving standardized containers around the world are a foundational element of the existing global supply chain.
Exactly. This mechanism decouples the vessel's primary fuel requirements from localized port infrastructure limitations.
It allows Viking to utilize existing global cargo shipping networks to position fuel supplies ahead of the ship's arrival.
Right, they just ship the fuel to where the cruise ship is going to be.
By relying on standardized modular containers, Viking can confidently publish an 80-voyage global deployment schedule extending all the way into 2029 using zero-emission vessels. They are essentially adapting established cargo supply chains to deliver clean energy directly to the ship.
And really, the scale of operations across all three of these segments demonstrates the precision required in modern maritime management.
It really does.
Whether navigating the regulatory and geographical realities of an international ship transfer, managing seasonal capacity, or aligning shipbuilding pipelines with global fuel supply chains, the industry relies on highly synchronized long-term planning.
And as a listener looking at these developments, you can see that the cruise industry is simultaneously managing immediate geopolitical reroutes in 2026 while locking in zero-emission hydrogen technology and port agreements for 2029, illustrating the immense logistical foresight required to operate at sea.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.